Welcome back to Buckets, WNBA edition. I am your host, Jim Turvey. We're excited to be back in your feeds. It's been a minute since you've had these podcasts, these WNBA betting extraordinaires. It's still a few more weeks until we do get the actual regular season here. But of course, that means we get previews, we get reviews, we get friends, we get family. We got Dano Mataya here. He's going to be with me a lot this season. He's going to be in the feeds on Tuesdays. I'll lay out all the structure later. But first, let me say, Dano, how has your off season been? You and I both live and breathe WNBA. What is, when we don't have it? What do we do? What have you been up to in the past few months with no W in our lives?
Well, I'm probably a terrible husband for the months of November to April because I'm so locked in on women's college basketball, which also helps the WNBA because I have a good sense on who's coming in, who's going to add some value. And we got some college coaches that are joining the WNBA ranks this year, which is also cool. But it still doesn't scratch that itch for that WNBA season. And scratch the itch for a new team. We've been, clamoring for expansion. We got a new team this year. But yeah, highly recommend if you bet on Caesars, take advantage of the free trip to the Bahamas. I did it this last weekend. Travel was a nightmare getting home, but I had a great time there. Wife thinks that I paid for all of it too. She won't listen to this.
Who was the college team that paid for that this year?
Oh, I mean, I could say with the amount of money I had on UConn, basically from, I think there was one game I faded them that was great in the Big East tournament, but they covered the spread every game in March. And then I went so heavy because I talked myself into it while I was in Tampa. There was no way Dawn Staley was covering 7.5 points. I hit it at every number possible, and I'm damn proud of that. Absolute domination. Hopefully we can get in your super hot take from before we recorded regarding the UConn women's basketball team.
Future GOAT Sarah Strong we're funding your trip to the Bahamas. We'll tease the Sarah Strong love. She's not at the W yet. She's still got a few more years before she gets here. But yeah, like I said, we're gonna have Dano on every Tuesday. We're gonna be doing best bets on Tuesday with Dano. We're gonna be doing bets on Fridays with a rotating crew, kind of action folks and friends and family alike. And then whatever weird concepts that I want to do. I haven't told Dano all the weird stuff I plan on rolling out. We'll of course talk about awards and best bets and painful losses and bad beats, but I hopefully have a few creative ideas up my sleeve. So we'll be giving you plenty of winners on here as always, but hopefully we'll be doing some fun, creative, concepts out there, some drafts, some brackets, some stuff like that as well. Including I'll tease that I already did tell Dano about one that I'm planning to do. We're going to do a recurring segment every episode that's going to be an ongoing test of who can pick the reverse long shot, a nice juicy number, and who can survive longer into the season. But we'll get to that when we get to the actual best bets episode. For today, we're going to be reviewing a little bit of the offseason and the season. I wanted to set the tone starting all the way back with the 2024 season. It because the W season is shorter than some of the other professional seasons, it feels like a really long time ago since we've had WNBA. But it ended with, if you'll remember, a wild finals. It was Liberty over Lynx, incredibly contested finals. We had game 1, Lynx go into New York and win in overtime. Game 2, Liberty even up. Game 3, we have the Sabrina game winner from the logo. Game 4, we had the Lynx by 2 on a sketchy call that people don't really remember because game 5 is Liberty in overtime with an potentially even sketchier call and Sabrina going 1 of 19. But the Liberty get it done. They get the title. Dano, I think they cashed some bets for both you and I. What are your memories of that finals and kind of the 2024 season specific to the Lynx and Liberty part? There's definitely a couple other names we'll touch on, but that finals I wanted to lead with because it was such a good one.
Yeah. Game 1, I got stuck at the DFW airport for 8 hours and missed it. Happy to give some tickets out to folks, though. That was a cool little thing we did. We spread the love of the game. Game 2 was pure domination. Game 3, I was actually able to be there in Minnesota.
I remember you went out for that.
For the shot. Sabrina could have gone 0 for 20 in Game 5, and it wouldn't have mattered because I think that shot in Game 3 will live forever. Game 5, I thought Stewie got fouled on the inbound, so I don't care about the missed travel. And then of course, like just the amount of money I had on, Liberty futures and then Liberty combined with Sabalenka. Shout out to my queen and my tiger, but the name that or the two names that shouldn't be forgotten in that series, Leonie Fibic and Niara Sabali.
Yeah,
Specifically Niara for Game 5. They don't win that game without her. And I remember being a little critical of the draft pick when it happened. 3 years ago, you're drafting somebody who's got a post with knee problems, multiple ACL surgeries, and for her to deliver the way she did when they needed a spark, because they were down the majority of that game.
they really were.
And then Fibic with, I think, the only rookie in WNBA history to shoot above 50% on, I think, I want to say at least 43s in a WNBA playoffs. Just a sniper the entire series or the entire run. And I mean, credit to Sandy for finally starting her down the stretch, going big. I think that's a move. She doesn't bench Vandersloot. We don't win a title either. I love still saying we, even though I don't live in New York anymore. But
hey, you're still a very much a New Yorker at heart. So
yeah,
while Fibic was the rookie that got the ring, there were two, and you could say one even in particular rookie last year that really was the story of the WNBA season. To start, we had Caitlin Clark enter the league. We had Angel Reese enter the league. Both had incredible rookie seasons to be remembered. Caitlin 19-6-8, fourth in the MVP, but really it was after the Olympic break where she took off. She averaged 23-5-9, improved the shooting, cut down on turnovers, led the team to their first playoffs since 2016. They went 9-5. A lot of success, I think, a lot earlier than a lot of people expected. And then Angel Reese, for that pre-Olympic break, she had the better stats, she had the better advanced metrics, and even when she came back, she went on a historic run, becoming the league record holder for rebounds in a total season, averaging 16 a game after the break. So these two rookies were really kind of the story of the season until that incredible finals. We were just talking before we even hopped on, Dano. I think you were among the less skeptical folks. I think a lot of folks out there, myself included, thought Caitlin would struggle with the immediate going to the WNBA. I don't think there was a lot of question about her long-term potential. And she did struggle a little bit at first, but it wasn't crazy. And she hit the ground really running after the break. Yeah. What were your takeaways from the rookie season for both of them, and a rookie class that I think is going to be remembered for a really, really long time?
I think from the Caitlin standpoint, you left out the fact that she had a game with 19 assists.
Yeah.
So WNBA record. I mean, that's video game numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why there are props out there for games with 20 assists. It's, I mean, it's mind boggling because you've seen it. And I mean, I know people give her flack or they criticize her for not winning a championship. But you really can tell how she makes everybody around her better. And the on-off numbers are, speak for themselves. The efficiency is only going to get better. I think the thing that she carried with her from college mostly is the confidence. I think she knows that she is the best player on the court anytime she steps out there, and the shot selection proves that. I think everyone was kind of harping on the fact that the mid range isn't there yet, the floater game isn't there yet, but everything that you read about Caitlin speaks to how hard she works. So I think she's going to add, and tool her game a lot. She didn't participate in any, European leagues or Unrivaled or anything. There are pictures of her at various Iowa games looking swole. So I mean, her impact was huge. And then from Angel, I'm definitely on more of the hatred side of that. One of the most inefficient seasons of all time. She knows what she has to work on, and it's finishing. And some of the shot selection just isn't for me. As far as the mid range and threes, I mean, anyone can make those shots in warm ups, but is that a good shot in a game? I don't think so. But as far as the one thing that you can't really teach is a motor. and that's what she has. And that's what the one person who voted for Rookie of the Year must have thought, to not make it unanimous. But no, I mean, not just them two though, who are, kind of transcendent with this, giant year of growth in women's basketball. But I think we got a lot out of Leah Edwards. I'm excited for her this coming season. Should be starting. We got a lot out of Camila Cardoso when she came back from injury. I mean, her and Angel rebounding together is a scary tandem. Julie Van Loo from Belgium, follow EuroLeague. She's been phenomenal for a long time. And then a team that I'm high on, the Sparks. Brink should be back in June, July, and then Rakia Jackson is just an absolute scorer in every sense of the word. She's phenomenal. So much good young talent. It feels like we haven't had a draft class, like you were saying, that was this impactful in a long time.
Yeah, and I think that you touched on a bunch of names there. Aaliyah Edwards is one that, in Unrivaled really kind of popped, especially in that one-on-one tournament. And it was cool to see a lot of players be able to stay over here. And that Unrivaled league was awesome. And it kind of gave some insights. And, you're talking about Angel being a little bit lower on her. I thought she impressed me in Unrivaled as well. So I'm really curious to see what of that translates over to this season. I think the final storyline from last year that I wanted to make sure to touch on was the Aces and their attempt at a three-peat. They had a lot of players in Unrivaled. They had a lot of players at the Olympics. They had a lot of players who went on deep postseason runs, and it looked like they were just wiped out by the end of last year. They looked tired. Asia Wilson still had an unbelievable season, second unanimous MVP in WNBA history to Cynthia Cooper in the inaugural 97 season. She had nearly 5 points a game more than anyone else in the league. She became the first to score 1,000 in a season. Of course, there were a few more games in that season. But this Aces three-peat was slowed down, I think, in part due to that tricky midseason schedule. So what I want to see is if they bounce back. We'll kind of transition here into an off-season review in terms of some of the moves, who got moved around, because we did see that Aces team get some fresh faces in. So, I'll take some quick thoughts on you on the Aces. Just the final topic I think that had to be touched on for last year is the Aces. They were going for a three-peat. I think that they looked, pretty tired by the end of that push for a three-peat. They still had the best friend in the league, Asia Wilson, unanimous MVP, the second in league history behind Cynthia Cooper in the inaugural 97 season. They're going to be back at it this year. I can kind of use this maybe to transition into what was kind of a crazy offseason with lots of moves for folks. But what do you think about the Aces and coming back, trying to, they were top dogs for a while, and then last year they didn't even make it to the finals. So what do you think is in store for the Aces this year as they kind of try to go back to a 3-4 and make sure the dynasty isn't over yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a hater on them for a little while. I mean, if Stewie doesn't go, full shell of herself, we probably have two championships in a row. But of course, we had to lose one. And I'm also a little bit of a hater on the, Unrivaled translating directly. I mean, Chelsea Gray looked amazing, but it's like, playing basically on a half court. So, they are getting older. I mean, they did make some changes. Sometimes that'll lighten up a locker room, but I love Kelsey Plum on that team, and I think her departure is, definitely something to talk about, and I mean, say what you want about everybody being tired with the Olympics and everything, but Asia Wilson was still bringing in every game.
Yeah.
Unanimous MVP, which I voted that she would not win the MVP, or I bet that she would not win the MVP. It's going to be weird. I mean, Jewel Lloyd has not been the most efficient player the last few years. She's had a chance to kind of lead a team on her own. Maybe it's what she needs is a stronger, I guess a Batman, so she can run Robin. It's an interesting team. Losing both their top assistant coaches as well, should be something to something to note. But I'm not very high on the Aces coming back to their dynasty way.
Well, you kind of led me into a few things here. So we did kind of a 2024 season review. Let's do an off-season review, because when I laid out this off-season, there was so much movement that Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Plum blockbuster was actually third on my list of trades that I thought were like in order of maybe the most impactful. But I actually think it's interesting to start there because you led us to it.
Sure.
There's a lot of moving parts here, but at the core of it, we've got Kelsey Plum. She wanted her own team, and now she's got that in LA. She's got some good young players with her. And Jewel Lloyd, it wasn't working there in Seattle. You know, we heard lots of stories from lots of different folks. We don't have to get into that in particular. The end outcome is she's now on an incredibly talented Las Vegas Aces team that I'm a little bit skeptical with you. We can maybe get to that later, but what did you think about this trade in general? I should point out that, you know, Seattle managed to get the second overall pick, Malanga, who is, I'm already incredibly impressed with her. I think that's probably a future move for them, but I think it's an interesting one. Talk about the impact of the trade on those three teams as you look at 2025.
Yeah. Seattle is hard to read. I think that would say, you know, because Skylar, I think, really performed to, you know, probably outperformed expectations coming back from pregnancy. NECA was as consistent as they come. I mean, I remember you being very, very high on them last year.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of just stayed average, and, you know, you get a tough first round matchup with the Aces. Who knows what, you know, had they done better in the regular season, maybe things are different. But anyways, I think Malanga, if, you know, what everybody says, she is this Wemby type player, and, you know, at only 19, maybe it is a, you know, phenomenal get for them. Going to be an interesting, you know, it's very similar to Angel and Camilla in Chicago. You have Ezzy and Malanga in Seattle. Put NECA at the 3. It's a very interesting roster. They're going to be huge. To me, that potential wise is awesome in Seattle. LA, I think Kelsey Plum's in her prime. I don't even know if we've seen the best of Kelsey Plum yet. I think she's going to have to start playing a little bit more point guard, and her role may change over time because, for one, Julie Alamon has just had, I believe, meniscus surgery, so she's going to be out for a little bit. Phenomenal player, but Kelsey Plum is probably more of a scorer than she is a passer. But yeah, surrounded by young talent, it's got to be exciting for her to step up and be a leader. And then Aces, Jewel Lloyd is getting up there in age. I believe she's older than Kelsey Plum.
Yeah,
has to be. So, yeah, I mean, it's put a lot of eggs in that basket. They signed Cheyenne Parker-Tyus, but she is out with pregnancy for an extended period of time. So, I mean, if you're just replacing Plum and inserting Jewel Lloyd, I don't think that makes this team that much better. So, I mean, if you're talking winners and losers from that trade, I feel like it's a lot of staying the same and two teams with opportunity to get better, I could say.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good breakdown of it. When I'm looking at this, there are really 4 big trades of the offseason. And I actually, like I said, I had that third. The one that I thought was the biggest and most impactful, and I'm kind of combining a couple trades here. It's what Phoenix did. They got Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabali into town. They got rid of a whole lot of names. They got rid of Beck Allen. There's a lot of moving parts. We got Ty Harris is now in Dallas. DJ Carrington now in Dallas. Melissa Smith now in Dallas. We got Sophie Cunningham over to Indiana. And we got Natasha Cloud into Connecticut for a second. We'll get back to the move that she made later in the offseason. But talk to me about Phoenix in particular, but kind of this whole reshuffling of these teams that none of them were, you know, in the finals or even in the semifinals last year. But these, to my eye, Phoenix's ceiling is almost as high as any team in the league right now.
Yeah, and I think the thing that worries me from the standpoint that, I mean, the same thing we said about Vegas the last 3 years of depth.
Yeah.
Starting 5 is elite. Alyssa Thomas can guard all 5 positions. She can run the point. She can play off ball. I mean, she's just a do-it-all piece. Should have won the MVP 2 years ago. Satu, I mean, if she's healthy, you're talking about a top 5 MVP caliber player. Kalia Copper, one of the best scorers in the league, just simply magnificent with the ball. So, I mean, it is such a such an interesting team. I think the style is definitely, probably ball dominant with Alyssa Thomas playing point and spreading it out to shooters with Nate Tippett's style. I just worry about the depth. I thought Sophie would have fit well on this team.
Yeah.
I think Sophie, for as much as people talk about her, is a tremendous asset for so many teams who just need shooting. In this league, shooting is almost everything. That's why Fevich was, playing the second most minutes on the Liberty roster in the finals. It's important. So they're going to have to get some contributions from the bench. I guess Kalani Brown will be the starter. Kalani Brown has potential. But yeah, Indiana, I love what they did. It's weird to know that we're going to see a Connecticut team without any of the starters from the year before. It's a semifinals team. They took the Lynx to 5. You could argue they could have beat the Aces last year. I'm not sure. So maybe the third best team in the league to lose all 5 starters and a head coach is nuts. And Stephanie White. You could include her in a trade almost. But her going to Indiana,
we're coming up. There was a coaching carousel in the offseason that I think deserves its own whole segment.
Won't go into that, but yeah, it's interesting. And in Dallas, how they fit in is I don't know how to read them completely yet. I feel like they got a lot of complementary pieces. And it's hopefully going to fit around Paige and Enrique. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, it really is. Part of the reason I'm excited for WNBA, I'm excited for every WNBA season, but this is like the one where you have to buy the new video game. I feel like I always think of certain seasons like how sometimes they're like, oh, not that many people change teams. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna save myself the $60. I'm gonna just play last year's version. If you played 2024, WNBA 2K,
yeah,
it's totally different. This year you've got so many names in different places that it's gonna make it so fun the first month of the season to watch. And for bettors, there are opportunities galore. We're going to be able to see, does Phoenix take a second, or does the offense kind of hit the ground running? But then the depth comes into play later in the season, because if they have one injury, suddenly that's a team we're fading, and like a very easy fade that the market's going to be slow to adjust on. From the inverse, like Dallas, is that a team that all of the parts that, there's all this talent here. Maybe you and I are a little bit more skeptical of, how those pieces actually come together. That's a good fade opportunity. So there's so much movement that it's really going to be fun as bettors to kind of look at this, how this comes together on certain teams and doesn't come together on other. And speaking of which, the trade that I thought was the second most important of the offseason was a player to a team that was the exact player to the exact team that I had been begging for forever, in part because I'm a Liberty fan.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Natasha Cloud to the Liberty. I think it is the perfect trade for them. They won the title last year with, Courtney Vandersloot in the starting lineup for a long time. And Sloot is an awesome player, but it didn't make sense to have her and Sabrina next to each other in the backcourt. It left too many holes to be picked on defensively. And they kind of overlapped in skill set in a way that I think Natasha Cloud and Sabrina Ionescu are actually perfectly complementary. So it seems like you were of the same mind that this was the absolutely perfect addition for the Liberty. Talk to me about Cloud to New York.
Yeah, I think this is the move we wanted last year. But, of course, Sloot kind of had her spot. Cloud gives you that, the defensive hole that you talked about that exists when Sloot and Ionescu are on the court together, and then just the ability to go get a bucket and the ability to show up in big games. And I know that she's only played in a few playoff series, since they had their finals run. But those playoff series against the Liberty in big time moments, puts up phenomenal numbers, never afraid of the moment, can get you a bucket when needed, can get assists when needed. And I feel like that's what the Liberty were missing. If you could not get it into the post, getting a bucket, especially like in Game 5, is impossible.
Yeah.
So having a player that can create, get their own thing going, I think it's just a perfect match made in heaven. she's a dog defensively. It's a move we both wanted for a while, and I'm sure the Liberty tried to make happen, just couldn't get it done. And now it's like the stars are aligning, and you get somebody else who's got that same hunger for another championship too.
Yeah.
Kind of lightens up the locker room and puts that fire back under him again.
And there were a few other trades out there. The one I had listed, but honestly, I think with time, I think we kind of can just skip ahead to free agency stuff. But Ariel Atkins to this guy is an interesting move in a vacuum, but I think you and I probably think this guy are maybe like an 8 seed at best. So I don't know if we need to go too deep there, but let's go over to free agency, because you kind of hinted at this, how we have the whole Connecticut Sun are no longer on the Connecticut Sun. One of those pieces is DeWanna Bonner. I, for most of this offseason, was thinking it was certain that she was going to go and play with her wife in Phoenix.
Yeah.
That did not happen. She is instead in Indiana, where Natasha Howard also went. Two pieces that I think, we talk about perfect fits with Natasha Cloud to New York. I think DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard next to Caitlin Clark is like the stuff dreams are made of. It's why I was, skeptical of Indiana last year, especially at the start of the season. I'm pretty intrigued now, and the markets as a whole are pretty intrigued. They have the Fever really in that tier with the Aces, Liberty, and Lynx as the 4 best teams in the W. Are you as high on Indiana thanks to these offseason moves here?
Absolutely. I think Caitlin has established herself as the best guard in the WNBA.
Yeah,
I think that's just we can write that in stone. And the betting market shows we haven't had a guard win MVP in a long time, and Caitlin is the second favorite by the slimmest of odds to Asia. So I mean, this could be special when you put around her not only just talented players but talented vets.
Yeah,
vets who are hungry for a championship. I mean, DeWanna Bonner's been close for so many years, and I mean, I guess she did win one with Phoenix, but so close for so many years. Natasha Howard hasn't won since Seattle. These are two players who one can guard, two can get buckets on multiple levels on the court. It's going to be exciting. They both can run. It's just such a fun team when you look at it. Like then you factor in the bench pieces. I mean, like I don't know who their set starting 5 is. I guess if you include both of them and Kelsey Mitchell, you have Lexi Hull coming off the bench, who is fantastic. Sophie Cunningham coming off the bench. I mean, this team has got so much potential. Can beat you in a lot of different ways. It's the thing that's going to be interesting to me is how Stephanie White comes in and how much she, can adapt to the players she has. Because I mean, Connecticut was the slowest team in the league last year. Is that a personnel thing, or is that a Stephanie White thing?
Yeah, 100%. And for folks who are wondering, we're going to go team by team. Don't worry, that's going to be the next episode. This is truly just catching you up on the offseason. We're telling you who went where. We're going to go in depth on these teams for sure. And Indiana is going to be one that we definitely go in depth on. I think you kind of touched on what the starting lineup looks like. I mean, if we go Caitlin, Kelsey, DeWanna, Tosh, Aaliyah Boston, that leaves Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham off the bench. That's a 7 deep that can be a championship team. So we will definitely be going in depth on all these teams. The next name I have here, and this is crazy. This is how insane this offseason was. This is like one of the biggest names in the league, and she is 7th on our list here. Brittany Griner to the Atlanta Dream, kind of a forgotten part of the offseason. I had to remind myself when I was looking through these that one of the most famous, one of the biggest names in the league is now on a totally different team. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time MVP runner-up. Kind of a weird fit in Atlanta. A little bit older at this point. What do you think of BG in Atlanta? Is it a move that I should have had higher up here, or are you kind of with me in that you kind of overlooked it when thinking about the offseason as a whole?
No, I mean, I had to be reminded right now. I like it. It's definitely interesting, right? I mean, you got a player that's spent her whole career in Phoenix. I mean, she means a lot to that community. Great fan base there, and to me, she was playing so well in in that finals run against Chicago. And
Yep.
I mean, she was shooting 40% from threes during the finals. Like, unbelievable player. She's kind of like a cheat code to a certain extent. It's just, one, how much does she have left in the tank? Two, I mean, the Dreamer very, like, just interesting, because I mean, I feel like so many years we're like, this is it.
Yep.
Tanisha Wright's going to figure it out. Finally, they got themselves a new coach, who is probably, I mean, he's been a mad scientist in women's college basketball for a long time. Carl Semesco, if you don't know, Florida Gulf Coast, has been almost like a basketball case study. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how they're going to be able to run that fast with her and Brianna Jones playing next to each other. It's just such a weird fit to me.
Such a weird fit.
So I mean, for that reason, I'm like, but I mean, Semesco's a good coach, so
I think
maybe.
well, and maybe that's a perfect transition, because I did want to go over key front office and coach changes, and I do think Atlanta might be, at least from the bottom half of the projected standings, the most interesting team, because we talked about BG. You teased there Brianna Jones, that fifth Connecticut Sun starter that's gone, in the front court next to her. That's a really strange pairing. But Ryan Howard under a Carl Smesco offense, I think could be like kind of a breakout player this year. And Jordan Canada, when we have seen her healthy and playing, is a really good player. Alicia Gray is the fifth. That is like, talent wise, that's probably a top 5 talent in the league. Now the question is, how's that all come together? So you referenced, you're deeper in the college weeds. You referenced Carl as a mad scientist. Talk to me a little bit more about what he did at FGCU, and if you think it can translate with this Atlanta team that we just don't know what to do with, really.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage everybody to you'll get a lot more out of reading than listening to what I'm about to say. Sabrina Merchant wrote an awesome article in The Athletic, kind of talking about his fit at the next level. But it's very, very Maury Ball-esque, mixed with D'Antoni 7 seconds or less, right? It's fast. It's a lot of threes, a lot of layups. It's efficient, and there's a reason that, I mean, I don't think I want to say they didn't lose a home game his last 4 seasons there.
That's nuts.
Like, knocked off a Virginia Tech team in the tournament that had Elizabeth Kitley and Georgia Amore. I mean, granted, they had Kirsten Bell back then, who was just a lights out scorer, phenomenal college basketball player, hasn't really shown it in the league, but still, they don't get that win without his system, which is, live and die by the three. But if you can make that work at this level, great. But it's going to be a team that, if Semesco leaves, I assume he's going to bring his system with him, and they're going to be playing so fast. It's going to be a team that, probably is not, at least to start the year, one of those changes that you're like, okay, this team is going to be one that we bet the overs a lot to start until the books catch up.
Yeah, I absolutely love that angle. I think that is absolutely going to be sitting there, because this Atlanta offense has been so just stagnant for so long. And this, well, listen, we have questions about how it might come together ceiling wise, and maybe even long term wise, but the pace is going to be there. And if we see that pace, I think they could stagger Griner and Jones, play each 24 minutes at this point in their career. That's fine. They overlap for 4 minutes at the start of the game, 4 minutes start of the second half, maybe.
Yeah.
And this team can really run some interesting stuff. Atlanta is a team. There's something about Atlanta professional basketball teams. It's the Dream and the Hawks that always get me coming back to them. So I'll definitely be on the Dream a bit this year. But he was the second name on my list. You already mentioned the top name on my list that I think is going to have the most impact on this season from like a title chance change, and that's Steph White in Indiana. We saw what she did with the defense there in Connecticut. Now you talked about how the offense at times got a little stagnant, the pace got a little stagnant, but she is such a strong defensive coach that I think it's almost like, we referenced Cloud being a perfect fit next to Sabrina, play style. I almost think that Steph White plus Caitlin Clark, they complement each other really well. Caitlin's going to float your offense. You're going to get great offense with Caitlin. If can Steph White get a team that has a Leah Boston, that has Natasha Howard, who, you know, in her peak was a great defender. Same with DeWanna Bonner, Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin. There's some more question marks there in the backcourt. But do you think this could potentially be a top half of the league defense? It would be a big jump for them, but with a new coach and some new players, do you think that's feasible?
Man, that is really interesting to put top. I mean, yeah, I mean, defensively they were held back a lot, and I don't know if a coach single-handedly does that. I mean, I think a lot of credit goes to Alyssa Thomas, but you have the pieces, and I mean, for as much as people want to just say that Caitlin Clark isn't a good defender, it's ridiculous. She can defend. She's great in space. Granted, she's always looking to run. I think some of the bad habits about, you know, standing and watching and looking, you know, for the outlet pass quickly, those things are going to get nipped in the butt with Stephanie White. So from that point, you like it. Still, I mean, she's the favorite to win Coach of the Year for a reason. I just think they have so much talent that it's going to be hard for her to fail. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially in the situation that she's put into. So, defensively, I kind of hope they don't change or they don't improve too much, because I love watching them. You know, loved watching them play last year. I love the fast pace, and then when you do that, you do give up, you know, a lot of opportunities in transition, etc. But you know, it's kind of like a necessary evil. So we'll see. But I don't want to make any you know, statements or claims that she's going to be a world changer for that franchise.
Just top half of the league. There's some really good defenses out there, so I think that's why it would be a jump to get into the top half. But I think if they get to that point, if they are able to make that jump, I think they're then title contenders. To me, that's kind of the line of demarcation. If they have like the 8th best defense in the league, I think they could get to like, you know, semis, maybe quarters. I think if it's a top half, I think the offense would be good enough that if it's a top half of the league defense, they could be in contention for a title. So that to me is kind of the line of demarcation.
What is title contender for you? Top 2, top 3?
I think right now, in my mind, now maybe this is getting ahead of myself. I think there's obviously more than 2 contenders, but in my mind, it's Liberty and Lynx that I think could win it this year. At this moment, other teams would have to prove it to me. Yeah,
I mean, I think I'm right there with you. I think I have Fever basically third.
Yeah,
so, but I wouldn't call them a contender yet. You know,
it does feel like they are a tier below the Lynx and
the
Liberty.
gap is just too big. Yeah. Okay.
But I love that as a little. Maybe we can walk through the tiers of the leagues at the end here. The other name I had
more friendly than my tiers that I post on Twitter.
Well, those tiers are incredible, and if anyone doesn't follow, I think I don't know if I shouted the exact handle out, but Dano's at DR Mataya and has. I'm sure if you've ever followed women's basketball in any sort, you've seen his tiers that feature Ollie, his dog, as well often. The Ollie tier, just to himself there or herself there. The next coach I wanted to talk about is Lynn Roberts in LA. LA is another really intriguing team. They're going to be around that 7-8 spot in my mind. Kind of similar to Smesco, a really, really good college basketball coach who runs a fun, open offense, who now is going to get a WNBA team to coach. What can you tell me about Lynn Roberts in LA?
Very similar to Maury Ball. Like free throws, layups, threes. Like Semesco, but I'd probably say more emphasis on getting it inside than just threes. I think Cameron Brayton is going to flourish in her system when she gets back. So I'm definitely higher on the Sparks than most. I drunkenly told your guy Calvin Wetzel in Tampa that Sparks are going to win a playoff series. So I would say seventh or eighth, but but Lynn Roberts is going to be fun. I'll say that. Did I think that the Kurt Miller departure must have, knowing what we know now, he must have had the Dallas Wings gig in waiting, and so that was, definitely explains the move. But it's not a boring hire. It's a fun hire. Defensively, I wouldn't say I'd expect, something to be, awesome on that end. I mean, I think Kelsey Plum is not the greatest defender, but she can when she wants to. But I mean, Lynn Roberts is definitely a player's coach. Like, they're gonna love her. They're gonna play hard for her. So, in that sense, I do like it. Draft wise, I don't know if they got anything that intrigues me. It's a very interesting the way they drafted. I mean, I think they need some help at point guard to start, but yeah, I mean, to your original question, I think Lynn can be awesome. I think it's not a hire that is safe by any means. It's definitely going for it, and that's what I like to see from the WNBA. I think we're at a point where you need to make some splashes.
Yeah, absolutely. And one big splash and one big move that we saw was we finally got a new team. We got the Golden State Valkyries. Obviously, they have a new coach because they are a new team in the league as a whole. They've been going very international with their player pool. I think they are fine being really bad for this season and looking at a couple more top draft picks. But they've got Natalie Nakase out there, another one of these Aces assistants. Maybe we'll put her together with Chicago getting Tyler Marsh, the other Aces assistant hired during this offseason. You want to talk about those two coaches and those two teams and what you see from them potentially in this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you look at the schedule and in a vacuum, you're like, when are they going to win a game? And I think there are odds for that on FanDuel, like
they
on
are,
their first win. So, I mean, they are going to be, I mean, who's their best player, Jim?
I would probably say
it's kind of a hard question, right?
Kayla Thornton, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, like that. It is hard for a team.
They have a lot of really good, like 6th or 7th players, but they don't have any star player, which is why it makes perfect sense for them to be really bad for 2 years, scoop up 2 really high top level picks, and then have all of this incredible like supporting talent, which I think they do. Like, it's actually probably Tiffany Hayes. Tiffany Hayes can be like a number 3 or 4.
That's probably right.
But it's a really fun team. It's a credit to where the league is. That I look at this roster and I'm like, man, that's a good player. Temi Fegbenle. I love Temi Fegbenle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun, good. Kate Martin, I think, is actually going to be a really legitimate rotation WNBA player. But you need, like, in this league, you need 2 or 3 like top 15 players to have a chance to make the playoffs. I think there's going to be a lot of losses, but I think Natalie is going to be really good for their long-term vision. And there's no rush. I think they know they're going to be bad for a couple of years, get those top picks, and then flourish.
Now, they have no incentive to win. I mean, you have a great draft. I mean, the next few draft classes are going to be great.
Yeah.
I mean, why? No incentive to win. Not saying locker rooms can get toxic, etc. And I haven't seen any markets on these yet, but right now, and I hope they don't give up on Natalie.
Same.
It's gonna be dark. It's gonna be dark. And I think fans are probably overexcited. Probably have crazy, unrealistic expectations about how good Kate Martin is. But what would you set their season win total at right now?
So this is really funny. I was talking.
I don't want to do this for any other teams. I don't want to give any ideas out to books or anything.
But. Yeah, I would have it really low. So we get 44 games this year. I would have
we get 44.
What's that?
I forgot we get 44.
Yeah, we get more games this year. 44, right? Not 40. It's definitely a jump. I think it's all the way to 44.
Okay.
I think I would have it in single digits. And,
yeah, same.
And like maybe even like 7.5 or like something like that. I think they're gonna be totally fine losing a lot of games.
Okay. When I thought it was 40, I literally had the number of 4.5 in my mind.
Yeah.
Which is so low, but 6.5, anywhere between there sounds kind of safe. I mean they're professionals. They're gonna get one. And then some teams just have off nights, but yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I really hope that. It feels very like all right, we're developing our squad.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So
Yeah, I think that's a great coach to have for that. And just briefly, we've already gone kind of long on coaches, but Tyler Marsh. There's a couple other new
yep.
names out there. A couple of these, they're actually tricky names to pronounce. Chris Koklanes in Dallas, Raheed Mazine in Connecticut, and Sidney Johnson in Washington. Do you have any thoughts on any of those four?
I know nothing about Sidney. Outside of, I
Sidney,
guess
I'll say I
he's
looked
at a
up.
rival.
He's two-time Ivy League Coach of the Year with a little bit of W assistant experience, but I don't know a ton about any of these names here.
I mean, Connecticut's coach. You're gonna have to say his name again.
You're making me say his name again. I'm just gonna say he has Euro experience, including he led the Belgium women's team to the Euro basket title.
The Cats, yeah. I mean, he's someone who they are going to be bad.
They're going to be really bad, and I think they're fine to be bad. Does Marina get traded before the season?
No, I think I feel so bad. I mean, I've been very public about my hatred of being in that state, or going to Mohegan. There's nothing to do.
It's rough.
So I mean, it is going to be a dark time. And I mean, she already kind of tried to force her way out, and they said no.
Yeah.
My guess is the way that she's been vocal about the players they drafted and stuff. I bet you they're giving her some money under the table. That's just a sidebar.
Let's go. Let's put it allegedly on that. We don't want the first pod of the year getting us sued here.
I wouldn't get sued. It's just a theory. I'm a conspiracy theorist. So yeah, I hope he doesn't get let go after 1 year or anything. And then Tyler Marsh, I think probably outside of Stephanie White, I mean, he's got to have the highest expectations for sure.
Yeah,
I think he's been put in a great position to succeed. I mean, you got a vet point guard, which having a veteran in that position is, I think, huge in this league. You got a vet point guard. You got Rebecca Allen, who I think is I think every team would want Rebecca Allen. She's just the 3-and-D player. I guess her, Bonner. I'm trying to think of Jackie Young's kind of gotten to that point of that she's more of a smaller guard and creates her own shots, but just a perfect player to have on that roster. Ariel Atkins, who's an Olympian, been an All-Star. So I mean, he has the pieces. That's why I'm higher on Chicago than most, because I do think that he's a great coach, at least developmentally. I mean, I everything I read the last few years talks about Tyler Marsh is a key resource for developing a lot of these players in Las Vegas. So it'll be exciting to see him, get handed the keys to the kingdom and see what he can do. It speaks volumes that they did not re-sign Kennedy Carter, but and then Chris Koklanis been around a lot of great players. He was the assistant coach for USC last year and a half until he took the Dallas job. So he's been around Juju Watkins for a while. He was on Connecticut staff with Kurt Miller. They have a great relationship. So, I mean, still, I think it's going to take Dallas a little while to get going. I'm sure defensively they're going to be a lot better than they were, even though Letitia Trammell was touted as a defensive coach. It was the worst defense I've ever seen in my life the last few years. So it's interesting, but I think his job is definitely safe, especially with Kurt Miller as the GM. So if Dallas gave Vicky multiple years and then Letitia Trammell multiple years, he's going to be fine. So yeah, I think from your original question, I think Tyler Marsh is probably the most interesting of all the new head coaches.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And he's going to have. So I'm going to very quickly. We let's just give me two rookies that jump out to you that maybe you didn't get covered, because I mean he's going to have Haley Van Lith there. That was a notable pick by Chicago. Obviously top of the draft we had Paige Beckers. We talked about Malanga in Seattle. Are there any rookies that you think could have it? Like, obviously, in Chicago and Connecticut, they loaded up on all these young players. It might be intriguing in terms of playing time, but they probably aren't going to impact, the actual playoff picture. Is there any rookie that you think could impact the playoff picture this year, or do you think it's more of a year to, if you're looking at this rookie class, look at those players in Washington, Connecticut, getting a lot of run and potentially being rookie of the year candidates, even with Paige and Dallas being the heavy odds-on favorite?
Yeah. I mean, I think Kiki Iriafen has a chance to potentially start. I mean, they have Aaliyah Edwards and Shakira Austin, but who knows? Because we were talking about Kiki potentially being the number one pick the year after the Stanford run. She was playing that well at Stanford when it was her team. We didn't really get to see much of that because it was basically Juju's show. So I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like to me that's probably the most potential. Past that, I mean, I do think because a lot of these, a lot of players won't. I mean, for those who don't know, a lot of players won't make teams. Just not that many roster spots in the WNBA. I do think from a sixth woman perspective, Tina Paopao fits Carl Semesco's system in Atlanta like to a T. Just a knockdown shooter. Like she was the best shooter in the country last year, top 5 this year. Comes in, hits threes, does her job. I think she can have an impact, but like you're saying, it's hard to judge too prematurely, and I think Washington likes what they have with Aaliyah Edwards, so it's is Kiki going to get those minutes? Not really sure. I mean, maybe they move Kiki to the 3. Who knows? So I mean, we don't know anything about Sydney outside that he coached a bunch of nerds. No respect to Ivy League kids. Y'all are amazing. I wish I was an Ivy League guy.
All right, let's use that to transition in. So I want to do 2 up and 2 down. This is why I sent you. I see you've got your answers in here.
Yep.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the odds as they are right now for the W. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 2 teams we're kind of higher on and 2 teams we're lower on. This isn't necessarily in relationship to a championship odds. We're not giving out any best bets today. We'll have plenty of bets upcoming, but more just in relation to the market. Who are 2 teams you're higher on and lower on? So right now, as is, the Liberty are a pretty notable favorite at plus 230. Then you've got 3 teams basically all together. It's the Aces, Fever, and Lynx. Then it's a jump down to a tier of their own in 5th, the Phoenix Mercury at plus 1200. Then we start to get to some longer numbers. It's the Dream at 4,500. It's the Sparks at plus 6,000. So that's now like the implied 7th best team. The Storm at plus 6,000. So those are the top 8. If we were to look at the projected by the title odds playoff teams, then you've got the Sky at plus 9,000, the Mystics and Wings both at plus 10,000, the Sun at plus 13,000, and probably appropriately the Valkyries down at plus 200 or plus 20,000. So who are 2 teams you're higher on and 2 teams you're lower on? Let's do the teams we're both. Let's go lower on first, actually, and then we'll circle back and kind of end on who we're highest on before we get out of here. So who are 2 teams you're lower on than the market?
The Atlanta Dream. I just don't. I've got to that point of like, all right, I'm done.
You're not falling for the trap again.
No, I mean, I know they got a lot of new stuff. It's just I don't see them as the 6th best team in this league, and I think it'll be tough for them to make the playoffs, especially like figuring out a new system. Questions about their depth, playing time all around. I don't know. I mean, they were the 8 seed last year, so I don't see how just Brittany Griner and Brianna Jones just immediately move them ahead of 2 teams. The Fever finished 7th last year.
Yeah. There's a lot of teams getting better. Is the other thing about that.
Yeah. So definitely lower on them. We'll be excited to see what the market comes out to, and I think I'm probably lined up with you here based on what you said in this conversation. But I'm lower on the Aces. I don't think they're the 2nd best team in the league, or 2nd or 3rd. I kind of have them 4th.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll lead with the Aces, but nice little transition. And the Aces are the team I am probably the lowest on in relation to the market. Listen, this is a team. It is a dynasty, and I usually like to be on the dynasty as they're kind of on their way down. You usually have a year, if not two, to kind of be able to fade them. Last year we were on Liberty. I mean, I'm not bragging because the year before I was also on Liberty, and that one didn't pan out. But last year was skeptical that the Aces could do three straight, and that proved that proved accurate. Now it's, they had maybe a little bit more rest of not having to do the finals, but they were still in the semifinals. And then a lot of them were unrivaled. They were a year older. Chelsea Gray looked great and unrivaled, like you said, but 3-on-3 is a lot different than the W, and it's a smaller court, and that's easier on older legs. So it's not a doubting of Chelsea Gray and Asia Wilson in particular. To me, it's a little bit of skepticism about Jewel Lloyd. I do think that Kelsey Plum will be missed, and I think Jewel Lloyd is one that seems to have slipped in recent years. And Jackie Young, love Jackie Young, but there's health questions there. When you add health questions and age and efficiency questions on top of a really limited amount of depth, that's just a lot of question marks for a team that's being implied to be the second best in the league. I am definitely lower on them than the market. The other, I have an asterisk on because it's a team that I talked about in this episode of loving their ceiling. It's the Phoenix Mercury. If you're playing Phoenix, you want to be on the title and you want to be all about the ceiling. And if they get to the postseason healthy and things come together, that could be a great ticket. I have a lot of questions about that depth. They basically have gone all out around, their big three. And, like you said, it might be Kalani Brown, it might be Natasha Mack at the 5. If there's any injuries, it starts to get really questionable really fast for this team. Alyssa Thomas is a player who was injured most of unrivaled, and she's got her funky shoulders that they held up last year, but it's always a little bit of a question. Satu Sabali has health questions that kind of go under the radar at times.
Every year.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of ways where this goes very wrong. So I'm kind of hoping we get them at a really long number to miss the playoffs, something like that. I want to play, the extreme version of this team in either direction, because I do think there's a world in which they're incredible. I think that's very feasible. I don't think there's a world in which they just entirely miss the playoffs. So to me, I'm lower them only in the sense that I think that there's going to be ways to fade them throughout the season because of their really poor depth. If it's, Alyssa Thomas being out for a game, Alyssa Thomas, theoretically would be worth, 3, maybe 4 points to spread. In Phoenix, you might be worth a number that the books aren't going to, they're not going to move it 8 points for a single player. Alyssa Thomas in Phoenix being filled in for with no one, suddenly the offense sputters. You can't really account for a type of player like that. So I'm be looking to fade them at times during the season, I think.
Yeah, that's because I mean, thinking about her value on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's end on the high note here. Let's get two teams that you are higher on than the market, than people you've been hearing chatter about. Well, give me two teams.
I'm going Chicago. I just think they have too many pieces to fail. And assuming what you said about Angel Reese, she looks good and got better. Camilla was killing it in the Chinese league. Rebecca Allen, as I talked about, she's everybody's coveted 3-and-D player. Sloot coming home. Ariel Atkins proving that it wasn't a bad trade because everybody was shitting all over Chicago for that trade.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, everybody. I had to get one in there. And a coach who's out there to prove his worth, that he's not just a developmental guy. So that's my first one.
Wait, real quick, we don't have resolution to the Kennedy Carter thing yet, right? I mean, we know she's not going to play for Chicago, or do we even know that?
She's definitely not playing for Chicago. She's a free agent. Nobody signed her. If I was the Aces, I'd go sign her. It's fucking, excuse my language again.
you got one in, and then you're like, let me go for a second.
Yeah. It's absolutely perfect for the Aces. And I think that playing with Asia Wilson, she respects her enough to be like, yeah, I'll come off the bench. I'll come in and I'll dominate. Like, that's a move that I would drastically. I mean, she could change any franchise. I don't. I mean, if you have a mature organization, I mean, I understand the risk there, but there's got to be some deeper reasoning why she is not signed by anybody, because she's way too talented. In my opinion, a top 3 guard talent-wise in the league.
I think it's a
Um,
really good point on all around. I think you're right that there was nuance to the situation in Chicago, and I think you're really right that like there are certain teams where she could be such a good fit. And going to play with Asia Wilson, she's going to have the respect level, and it's like a creative guard that is exactly what is needed. You and I both just said we're low on the aces. I think if they get Kenny Carter, that skepticism is at least let's see what the number is, but it's that would be exactly what they need, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. And then my other one kind of has an asterisk to it because it's going to, I think they're going to start off a little bit slow, and that's the Los Angeles Sparks. I think, when you're going to get Brink back mid-season. You're going to get, I think, Allman back mid-season. That's two, top, say 75 players in the world. Two. I mean, Brink's not. I wouldn't call her a vet yet, but Julian Allman has played the highest level with Belgium. Played on some great Sky teams. I think that's a team that can surprise a lot of people. Marty said they win a playoff series, so yeah. I just hope. I mean, thinking about it, it might be a terrible wager when I was drunk, but they might finish 8th or 7th. It'd be a terrible matchup. But if they get 6th, 5th, or 4th, or I guess 6th or 5th, I think they could surprise a team. And I guess I'm bullish on Lynn Roberts. I love offense. Everyone knows that. So yeah, Sparks with an asterisk. So I may not even bet there, like whenever we get a win total. So I may not bet the over and wait to get that live after they lose a few to start.
Yeah, I think that's the way to approach them. I'm pretty intrigued by them as well, and I do think that there's like a really high ceiling on them when Brink comes back. Once Rakia had really big first half, second half splits last year that were probably rookie adjustment as well. But I'm also curious. I think she'll have kind of a Kelsey Plum adjustment this year, and I think that once all of those pieces are together, it's a really interesting team. And like usually, there's one of those top 4 seeds is like kind of like wobbling by the time they enter the postseason. If the Sparks can line up, as the 6, 7, 8, maybe even like you said 5, that's like gets to draw that wobbling team. I think they definitely could be live to win a playoff series. There's a lot of talent there.
Great. Real quick, do you remember when I texted the group back when we all used to text? I texted the group because I was like, I wonder what their playoff odds were. I was thinking Minnesota, who made the finals and almost won the championship, was plus odds to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean they're going to get somebody wrong this year.
Yeah, that's a great call. It's a really good point.
So I don't know who that's going to be, but I mean, like, and maybe we're not even seeing it yet as far as like odds to make the playoffs, because I mean, Lynx were 30-1, 50-1. So yeah.
I'm going to tell you who it's going to be, Dano, because this team is going to have a plus number to get into the playoffs because they are being priced as the 8th best team right now. We're running it back. What year is it, GIF? Robin Williams, what year is it? It's 2024. We're running back the Seattle Storm. Listen, it did not work out last season, but I think there's a lot to like here. I think Jewel Lloyd.
They got rid of Jewel Lloyd. I'm in.
I kind of think I think it does help. It wasn't a clean fit. It clearly wasn't a clean fit personality wise, and it definitely wasn't a clean fit on court wise. Because if you go and look at the numbers, Skylar Diggins-Smith had one of the best seasons of her career. Neko Ogumake had one of the best seasons of her career. Ezi Magbegor maintained that level that she had kind of popped to in recent seasons. The struggle was Jewel. Now Jewel is out and not replaced by a win now type player. However, they have this rookie in Malanga who has oodles of potential. They have a full season of Gabby Williams, which was the piece that I thought was so big. They have the full season of Gabby Williams. And I just think that this team is much closer to the tier of like a Phoenix Mercury than down by the Sparks. So I'm intrigued by the Sparks, but the floor of the Storm to me is much higher. So I think it's very live for the Storm to be a top 4 seed, get home court, get into the semifinals, and you're sitting on a 60-1 ticket. So the Seattle Storm are a team I'm incredibly intrigued by. The other team that I'm higher on, it's much more narrow. I wanted to give a team that was in that top 4. I'm intrigued by the Liberty. If I gun to my head the second, I would pick the Liberty to win the title. But I think Right now, the Lynx are kind of priced as the fourth best team of that top four. I think they should be the second best team. I think that they were.
Agreed.
I honestly think that they had a pretty good case as the best team last year, and they didn't have home court in the finals, and a few things went a few different ways, and the Liberty came out on top. This Lynx team, Nafisa Collier, I think this is a season she takes the belt from Asia and wins MVP and at least has a case as the best player in the W. I think Asia Wilson, is gonna she's fresh off 1,000-point season. She's gonna have something to say about that. I think Nafisa Collier is as good. All the pieces are back around them. It's really been a quiet offseason. I think that's kind of nice. A lot of them played together in Unrivaled. There's some questions that some folks have about shooting regression on both ends. They were able to shoot at a really high level, and teams missed a lot of shots against them. I think that's when you have the best coach of all time on the sideline scheming for you. You get really good looks, and you have defensive schemes that draw out bad looks from your opposition. I think this Lynx team is the second best team in the W. I think there's very much a world in which they are in the finals again. Listen, the Liberty adding Natasha Cloud, I think, is huge. I would favor them in a finals matchup against the Lynx this second, but I think it's very close. I think it would be very close again. And if Stewie is not back to 100% from this knee thing, if Sabrina is not 100%, she was banged up all of Unrivaled. To me, Minnesota almost has less question marks, even though there's some question marks about, regression and things like that. From a personnel side, I don't see many questions about this Lynx team. I think they're very legitimate. I think they're the second best team in the W. So that's, it's a narrow margin. They're at plus 360 and the Easters are plus 350. We're pulling apart hairs here, but I think the Lynx should be treated as the second best team in the W, and they're a little bit disrespected right now, but by a narrow margin. But those would be the two teams, Seattle and Minnesota, that I'm a little bit higher on in the market.
I love it. It's mind blowing. I think our shout out action guy. He's everywhere. Justin Perry.
Yeah.
Lynx luckiest team in the in the WNBA last year with that regression stuff. So, but yeah, you're right. At a certain point, it's just like, no.
Yeah.
This coach is unreal.
Yeah.
If he is the best player in the world, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
It's close. It's going to be a conversation this year. All right, Dano, that was fun. We went really long, but that's fine. We hopefully we gave some few hints at bets here and there, but we're going to be going even more bet specific as we go along here. I'm actually got an upcoming player prop draft, so that's going to be only bets. So after we kind of did high level stuff this time, we're going to really get in the weeds, do some bets there. We'll be looking at awards and stat leaders. Be doing that with Dano. Be doing some East and West previews with some guests. So yeah, and in the meantime, download this. Make sure that you're subscribed again now that the season has started. Make sure, Dano, have you logged anything in the app for the WNBA season this year, the Action app?
I have not, but maybe I did the Liberty to win it all.
I think I have one team to win all. I've got a couple player props in there. There'll be more. So make sure you get the app. Make sure you have us on notifications there. As for the video, like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you're getting us there as well. On the podcast side, on the video side. That's pretty much it. We're going to be leading in. This is going to be a busy season. We 2 a week of these. This is going to be awesome. Dano and I are going to be at it with best bets galore. Dano, do you have any final thoughts before we hit him with the let's get buckets and get out of here?
Yeah, I love doing giveaways all WNBA season, but awesome giveaways coming up. Got some great. We're going to be doing WNBA cards, WNBA jerseys, and I'm gonna throw in. They're going to be sprinkled throughout action episodes or buckets episodes. So you got to listen.
Yep.
You don't know when it's coming.
Little giveaways, little sprinkles, some bets, some jerseys, some giveaways. So make sure you're here.
Yes, and excited for another year of fun with you, Jim. And I hope that we're both partying at the parade in Brooklyn again.
Let's get it. And for now, let's get buckets.